All right, so 2-point perspective. Sorry. In 1-point perspective, the flat surface of the box, the cube, whatever, okay, is facing you, right? In 2-point perspective, the difference here is that the corner of the box is pointing towards you. What ends up happening there is the rule of perspective is that anything that's going away from you, the viewer, ends up getting smaller. That's really what this is all about, and everything follows that. So if the box is on its corner, the idea is that then these two sides are now going further away from you. Therefore, they get smaller as they go away. Now, it may be a very small box, okay, like this, and so therefore you really don't see the perspective. But when you enlarge that to something like a building, you'll see the perspective. So what we're going to do is we basically just start out exactly like you did with 1-point perspective. You start out with a horizon line. As I knock the camera onto the floor. Wouldn't that be awesome? Actually, this camera's broken already. It doesn't record anymore. It just sends video out to the computer. So now I've got a horizon line. And again, just like a 1-point perspective, one of the important things that we do is we have to set up our vanishing points. This is 2-point perspective, so how many points, vanishing points do I have? Okay, you guys are started already. This time the vanishing points are in the corners. Okay? Everybody see that? Your vanishing points are now in the corners. The major difference here is that everything now will be going off to the two sides. So let's just start. I'm going to start with my blue pen here for the road. I'm going to start with this road. And for this road, I'm actually going to draw it like a T. You know, like a road that comes to a T. Just for fun. Okay, so I've started with my road. I've made it like a T, you know, where a road tees off on another road. Okay, nice and easy. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, sorry, move those out of the way. I'm going to start drawing a building, well, or basically like a cube. So again, in 2-point perspective, all of our vertical lines are perpendicular to our horizon line. Okay, so just for fun, I'm going to draw this a little bit further off. So we'll just start here. Okay. Now I'm going to make the lines go all the way back. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. But you can see now how basically the only thing that is not going to a vanishing point is the vertical line. This is really key, okay? The only thing not going to a vanishing point is your vertical lines. Everything else has to go back to the vanishing point. Why? Because everything else is going away from you, the viewer. Because the box is now standing on a corner, everything is going back away from you, the viewer. So now, obviously, because my building is not infinitely long, I have to finish it. So now I'm going to use my black Sharpie here, and I will finish basically the house so you can see it. And then I'll go over my other lines here. Again, so you can kind of see. Yeah, okay. So can you see a house? Yes? Okay. The red lines that are still left over would be in pencil. You would erase them, right? Because you don't need them. You don't even need to draw them if you don't have to. But am I finished? No. Because the house is shorter than the horizon line, that means that I am above it, correct? So I would be seeing the top. Here comes the part that most people mess up. So pay attention. I have to finish this top. I have to finish the top of the house. Now, for our purposes here, we're going to say that the house is a flat-roofed house. It doesn't have a peak or anything like that. We'll do that in a second. But what I have to do is I have to finish the house. And here's where, again, like I said, people get messed up. The right perspective point, or the right corner of the house, goes to the left perspective point. The left corner of the house goes to the right perspective point. That way they crisscross, okay? And that's what's going to finish the top of the house. Watch. Okay, so I just take this, and I'm going to go from the left corner of the house all the way to the right perspective point. I'm going to go from the right corner of the house to the left vanishing point, perspective point, vanishing point, okay? Now, let me use my Sharpie to finish it off so that you guys can see what's part of the house and what's not. Okay, so now I've finished the top. The red lines, of course, again would be erased. Everybody see that? That's where most people mess it up. What they'll do is they'll take the left corner of the house and send it off to the left vanishing point, which doesn't work at all. And then they sit there and they don't understand why it's all messed up. Or they'll take the right corner and send it to the right vanishing point or whatever. So that's a start. Now, let's do another building. This time we'll do one that's above the vanishing point, just so that we can kind of get a sense of that. So I will start with, we'll just do it over here. I'll start it right here in the same line as the other one. Okay, goes above. Now I do my vanishing points again for the sides. Now there's starting to be a lot of lines here, so this is where you should be erasing stuff, okay, so that you would really have a better sense of what's going on. Now I'm going to use my black pen and I'll finish this off so you guys can kind of see it. So go make that vertical. Make the corner black here. We'll finish this one off here. Now, because it's going behind the other house, I'm not going to obviously finish that line. So now, can you see the other building? Because this building is above the horizon line, we don't need to see the top surface of the house, okay? We don't need to worry about doing those second set of lines up top. It just goes all the way back to the vanishing point and makes, you know, basically the house there. And of course, you would need to erase the horizon line behind the house, like what's the interior of the house. A lot of the vanishing point lines, the lines going to the vanishing points, you would erase, okay, so you don't have an absolute disaster and mess of a sketch. But you can see how this works. It basically follows exactly the same rules, exactly the same, you know, idea of the one-point perspective. The only difference is you have 2 points because everything now is going back to a vanishing point. The only thing that doesn't go to a vanishing point now are vertical lines. So let me repeat this. Every line goes back to a vanishing point now, except for vertical lines. Vertical lines still stay straight up and down. That will not be true next week when we do 3-point perspective. Once we hit 3-point perspective, what's actually going to happen is your vertical lines will also go to a vanishing point. And this will end up looking like when you walk downtown and you look up at a really tall building, the top looks like it's smaller than the bottom, right? But it's the same size if it's a square skyscraper because it's getting further away from you. So what we're doing here, this is actually not really realistic. Completely. 2-point perspective and 1-point perspective by themselves aren't really realistic. The other thing to realize is as you're walking around, as you change your position relative to a building, you may be changing the perspective. So if I'm in front of a building and it's flat to me, it may be 1-point perspective, but I take a couple steps to my left or to my right, and now I'm on the corner of the building, all of a sudden now it's in 2-point perspective. Depending upon the city and how messed up the city is, I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the whole city is in a wedge. It's triangle shaped because the two rivers, the Monongahela and the Youghiogheny River, come down to form the Ohio River. The whole city's triangles. So you might be standing in front of one building and it might be flat facing you, 1-point perspective, and then to your right you might have one that's on its corner to you because of the way the streets are all odd. By the way, they're all one-ways too, so you can never get where you want to go because they're one-ways and it's triangles, not squares. Really frustrating. So anyway, it's definitely in real life things aren't quite this neat. But what's important is that you understand the visual illusion that we're doing here. This illusion gives you the sense of depth. Look at this. I've got depth now in a drawing, a simple line drawing. It shows a sense of three-dimensionality even though this is just a flat piece of paper. That's really what we're looking for. That's what this whole class is about, is showing depth and showing things realistically in a flat piece of paper. Any questions? Stay there.